Hey traders, it's Christian from Hertz Tribeca Trade Group, and this is your end of day recap for Thursday, February 14th. It is Valentine's Day, one more day before the long weekend. And we'll start with a couple names that reported after the close today, a couple names that we were involved in today. NVIDIA up to 165.77. So why is this name up 7% or whatever after the close? After just barely beating numbers, their consent, giving some guidance because the bad news is priced in to the stock, right? This is a I don't want to say a simple concept, but something that you learn after for a while after trading is that the first two big plummets in the stock, when they in months past when they initially came out and reduced expectations and reduced numbers, and then the second time they came out and said something. They did not put in a lower low. So the second time that they released bad news, they did dip, considerably, but they did not take out the lows. That's usually a pretty good bullish divergence and a sign that the bad news is priced in. So as long as they didn't have anything else that they hadn't already uncovered or mentioned, this stock was probably, I thought, due to at least stay where it was, or go higher. So we capitalized on this. We spent a little bit of time on it. I actually just polled the room before, after I put my trade on. What I did was I sold put spreads, basically at the money put spreads, because again, you get the heightened volatility going into earnings. It's a great place. It's one of those trades that I think a lot of traders don't do that much, or don't take that out of the arsenal of weapons that they can use when they trade options, is to take advantage of that big move. One of the things, and if you're not familiar with this concept, by all means you can email me and I'm happy to go over it. We go over these things in the trading room, but you could take advantage. Going into an event, the options are much more expensive going into earnings when it's calm and there's no event that's out expected. So I think they were implying what, about a 7% move, I think it was. Let's see. We'll go to the earnings channel here. We have a dedicated earnings channel that I put in, all the moves, even though names at 7%. So this is what I did. I sold the 150. So I collected for tomorrow's expiration. I collected $223 for every contract that I did this in, and so again, that should be a full profit for tomorrow if it's above one. And the way I set it up is that basically it just needs to go a little bit higher. So it's up to 166. So hopefully, I think they still have their earnings call ahead of it, which is important. So anything could happen. And then the other trade that I did was Arista Networks, and I believe they're also looking good. Perfect. So I did a call spread on this one, and that's looking pretty good. What did I do here? I think this is the one that expires. I actually went out to next week for this one, and I did the 245, 252 and a half call spread. So we're past the upper strike. That's looking really good as well. Let's hope it stays there. Again, I can't really celebrate until until tomorrow because I have a call spread. Usually, if I was just outright calls, I would go ahead and hedge this after hours. But really nice move. I was joking around, and yeah, you got to celebrate a little bit when you get earnings, right? So I always like to play the get on up when I see names moving like this. So very nice. I think those were the only two names that I played for earnings. We did a TriNet one as well. I basically just put on a one lot for that one, so small trade, but some really nice. I've been trading earnings very well. I did not play. It kind of makes up for this one. Zoetis, I was long ZTS going into earnings, and I never like to be long shares. I usually construct an earnings trade, and I did not put one on just because I had enough things going on at the end of the day yesterday, and the damn thing skyrocketed. That always happens, right? When you take off, when you take off a trade, and if you forget to put one back on, it always goes up. If you were in it, sometimes it goes the other way. But Zebra, we talked about this one. I put this one out. Real nice trade in Zebra. Again, taking advantage of that. I think they were implying a 10% move in Zebra Tech. So what did I do? I went ahead and bought a call spread, and I financed that by selling a put spread. So, all the way through up 12 bucks in this thing. So really another lovely trade. In regards to just overall option activity today and market movement, we talked about this pre-market when the market was selling off on the retail sales number. Was I thought, first of all, the retail sales numbers. It's not to say that it's that old news, but it is what it is. It's in the past, and I think we know about some of that stuff already. So what I said was, hey, I think this is a better. If you're a day trader, it's better to have a little bit of that when we open up lower. Then we were ticking up about the S&P futures were up about 35 40 basis points. What do you think would have happened if we would have opened up 35 40 basis points? Probably sellers would have come in and knocked it down. But the market got a nice chance to open up down, and that entices people to kind of come out and buy the dip in some things. So just much better setup in my opinion when we open up down 40 basis points versus up 40 basis points. Micron, we saw some calls right off the bat. You had to be quick to kind of take profits, or at least take targets. I think I got into some April calls. I went out a little bit further just in case I needed to keep the trade on a little bit longer. But I went into some April calls for like 310 or 315. I took them off at 340. And then I took the last piece off back at my original cost basis. So nice move there. By the way, let's see what AMD is doing. There was an AMD call by. There was Micron and AMD calls. AMAT was the other name that reported. I think they're down. Their guidance was weak, probably a little bit weaker than expecting. This quarter numbers, again, and it's always about that. When you look at earnings reports, it's always about what they're going to guide, not so much what they did in their past quarter. So Applied Materials, their guidance was weaker than expected, but it looks like AMD is getting a bounce on that. Yeah, there was a couple interesting trades that went up today. Let me bring up. Of course, they started buying Micron right off the bat, and multiple maturities, March, April. AMD, they also bought next week's calls. Nice, I mean, a big block of them, 4,200 of those. They also bought this huge block of EA, and it was not against any shares. This was almost $1 million trade for next week in EA. Puzzling. But look at this trade. And then I guess this trade went up too. I did not see this one because I probably was distracted with doing some other things today. Look at this, 7,000 of those. But this was the trade that I was referring to. Who buys next week's calls and spends it was over $1 million. It was $2 million for next week's EA calls. So if you didn't get into EA, this was a home run that we traded earlier in the week. But it is kind of consolidating. I took the trade off at the VPOC. At the Virgin Point of Control, but it is hanging in there. I'm kind of putting in a little bit of a bull flag here. Took out bullish engulfing. So yeah, they must be up to something. So apologies, I didn't see this trade, but good to note it now. March 110s. I'll look to see if it's against any shares. This one was not against any shares. You would think that it would be, considering it's so short term, but somebody still likes EA a lot. So again, that Apex game, we were all over that one. A couple other, funky trades. Zuo, we had. I didn't ask to use his name, but he was in this trade a couple days. He's been in this trade and adding to it in Zuo the last 2 days, and he got lucky with some big momentum in the name today, up 6%. So nice, really nice move with this one. What else? TME is another one. I'm not in this one. These newer IPO names, they could really catch a lot of momentum, but you got to kind of, there's not a lot of technicals really. You basically get in them and then use a trailing stop for these things because they are fun if you could catch them. But TME saw a little bit of calls too. Nothing big, but it's had momentum. It's gone from 15 now to 1738, so not that big of a move, even though it looks like a real big candle. But again, in the house of momentum. What else do we see? I mentioned the. I'm just going to put this other EA trade on my sheet because I did not have it. And there's the TME, which came up a couple times today. EFA, they keep buying EFA calls. So I can. This is an ETF that I know a lot about. It is one of the most liquid ETFs or underlying indices. This covers international developed markets. So what this is basically Europe and Japanese securities. So if you look into the holdings of this, kind of gives you, because I know a lot of people don't know what EFA is, but it is one of the most liquid indices in the world. So I refer to it, it's not perfect. But I refer to it as the international SPY. So Nestle's, Novartis, Roche, HSBC, Royal Dutch Shell, BP, Toyota. So again, mostly Europe and mostly Japan. There are a few other areas that are in this ETF, but that's mainly it. But they keep coming into this thing. We've seen all short dated. So I don't know if there's a meeting, if there's a European meeting. Maybe it's something with Brexit. I don't know. But it's been March and like March 1st calls that they keep going after. But again, keep in mind, in the grand scheme of things, that I mean, there were some puts that traded too. It is a very liquid ETF, so it's kind of like almost analyzing SPY flow, which gets very noisy. What else? And then I'll kind of just leave it here for the day. Also, nice order in FXI calls today. A couple other moves. My only dinger for the day was Coca-Cola. I bought some Coca-Cola shares pre-market, and it just kept on going down. So that was my one loser of the day. But FXI looks interesting here. If you missed the boat on EEM, it's starting to look interesting again. It had a nice up day. It actually only finished up 20 basis points, so I don't think it finished on the highs. But maybe waiting for that 200-day moving average to be taken out again. We got into EWZ 2 days ago, and look at a real nice move in EWZ. I almost added to it yesterday on the weakness, because like I said, I bought it 2 days ago. But I just did not do it. But still, nice move. They were up. Brazil was up on some policy reforms. I think some pension reforms. Also, Netflix was a good one. I was in a double vertical, so I was long a call spread and short a put spread. I may decide to put something back on here, but the name of the game for me is going into a long weekend. I want to reduce risk, so I didn't really take off as many trades as I wanted to. Because I like some of the trades that it is what it is. I like some of the trades that I have on. But the goal for me is to kind of scale back into cash a little bit. And I'll probably do that in the beginning of tomorrow ahead of a 3-day weekend. That's always my rule. I think traders as well generally like to kind of pare down risk a little bit before a 3-day weekend. Before people leave for a long weekend, and there's an extra day in there where there's a little bit of uncertainty. But so it is what it is. I'll leave the video here for the day. Great day overall. Have a good night. See you tomorrow.